Here, Valerie, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, and thank you for having me here.
You bet. So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic threw everything off, rearranged so much. How did you survive the global pandemic, and how has it reverberated into your life today?
Thank you. Thankfully, although my heart goes out to everybody whose lives did dramatically change and are still dramatically changing because the world's going through a lot of changes right now.
Yeah.
Um, I have a lot of compassion for people's lives getting upended. Ours did too because we moved away and came back, and we still don't really feel like we're settled in a home that is workable for us. This place, God bless this place that we're in now. It's where we were living in Brooklyn, and that's where we feel is home, and that's where all my friends and a lot of my family is. Now we're in Jersey City, but it's the landlord that we have right now is so kind, and um, the place happens to be too small for us, but if that's our biggest struggle, then I mean, she's kind, the place is great, we treat the place great, everything's great, right? But in terms of the stress, I was already, and my husband already worked from home. And other than our living situation getting upended, temporarily, which I don't have to go into, um, I felt that I was being blessed to be able to serve others to stay heart centered through this time of fear, which is not really ending right now. Like the cultural narrative, we're being blasted with more fear on both sides of whatever issues you're looking at. And my job as a relationship coach, at least in my little sphere of the world, I'm not here to tackle political issues and of fear and survival and whatnot. But my purpose as a relationship coach is to help people be more heart centered. And
Yeah.
I got to do that over Zoom. My practice actually got busier because more people were stuck at home and fighting with their spouses, or they're stuck at home and then feeling more isolated. And so then I have the opportunity to be able to help people connect to their desire for love, connect to, let's see how we can make it through these challenges and transform conflict into intimacy if we're stuck in this small place together. And I mean, emotionally, my husband and I really felt connected and worked through things, even though we're in a place that's too small for us. So, I mean, that's what I helped other people do too. And then for singles, I really feel like this time is a unique time in history because we're so able, connecting with people online is such a mixed bag because we're so able to meet um, an unprecedented number of people, but we have to be strategic about it.
Yeah.
Because just because you can meet the lowest common denominator through online dating doesn't mean that they have any semblance of your vision and values and capabilities, and they don't have deal breakers, and you have to know how to vet for that. So I felt like I had the opportunity to support people in living an authentic, true to themselves, heart-centric life. Supporting people all over the world from my computer, even during the pandemic. So I'm very blessed in that regard. And, I still feel like, um, even though we're still in this living situation, that, I use a virtual background because it's like, the living situation that we're in is, like I said, a beautiful apartment, very sweet landlord, very wonderful situation, just still too small for us. No matter what, that's what I help couples navigate is, how do you make circumstances work for you and have that strengthen your relationship, no matter what the circumstances are. So, if that's our biggest challenge, we're lucky, right? I have a lot of compassion for um, how the pandemic and the current life circumstances are upending a lot of people's lives and their economic situations and their relationships and all of that. I've heard of a lot of people breaking up this year because of all of the changes that are happening in the world, and people going in different camps politically. And, the world is becoming more polarized. So with couples that I'm helping reconnect to their values and their vision for what's most important in life, then that can actually bring them closer.
So If I was to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds, kids always get the truth out of us, and it's
Hmm.
career day, and one of the kids is like, "What do you do for a living?" How would you answer them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would answer them really simply. I would be like, I help couples stop fighting and feel connected again. And I help people that are single that want to get into a relationship to find the right partner for them so that they're happy in love. That's what
What?
I'd say to a 12-year-old.
Okay, that makes total sense. So, what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream job?
It's really funny, and this is what's kind of sad. Because and my parents were very loving. I don't like to speak badly about my parents. They really did their best, but they were, kind of wounded themselves, so they didn't realize that their career, both of them, it just fell into their lap. They didn't have to work too hard to discover it. They both knew what they wanted to do from a young age, so they thought, okay, that's just what would occur to me too. They didn't have to ask me like deeper questions to get to know myself or what I felt or what I needed. Or so I literally thought when I was 12, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I went to NYU Film School. Um, and then when I was in my early 20s and I was doing a deep dive, because I did like graduate NYU Film School, do editing for a little while, but it wasn't satisfying. It was like my soul wasn't in it. And so I started meditating. I really started doing a deep dive. I started working with a therapist and like figuring out like what makes me tick. And I realized that the reason that I'd thought that I wanted to do film when I was a kid was because I always saw myself as a kid on the outside looking in. I was like sort of an alien, like observing culture. Like, why do people do what they do? Because I felt very alienated as a kid for various reasons. Um, and so I was so like, I don't belong here. It was like out of my wounding that I thought like I have to observe people and that's how I fit into the world is like through documenting them. Right. But it was like as soon as I healed a little bit as an adult, I saw that and I realized, wait a minute, I'm not wanting to edit actual films. I'm wanting to help people edit the movies inside their head, um, to help people feel better about themselves. But I was just like, I was like 21. I was like, I don't know how to do that. I minored in psychology in school, but like I didn't major in it. I didn't really understand. So that's what made me think that I was interested in holistic health. I actually started out as a health coach when I was 25. When I was in my early 20s, I started working with for holistic doctors, chiropractors, physical therapists, like naturopaths, like really trying to. I became a yoga teacher and a massage therapist, and like really trying to figure out because holistic health had always been my passion. But your calling kind of finds you. And when I started out as a health coach, when I eventually worked with a business coach, the coach helped me realize that the biggest results that I happened to get with my clients were with their relationships. Like they'd come to me for help losing weight, and it would turn out that they were doing emotional eating. And then I would help them figure out because this is just my gift. I hadn't had relationship training at that point. Now I have years and years of relationship training, but this was when I was like 24. Now I'm 46. So there's just a little bit in the way there. Um, but even then, without a lot of training, I was empathic enough to help people realize that they were actually emotionally eating because they weren't getting their needs met in relationship. And what did they need in that relationship? And how can they communicate about it and work through it rather than repress the feeling?
Yeah.
That they could actually speak their truth. And here's how to speak your truth in a way that's honoring. And then they solved the issue, and then they recognized that they didn't need to, it was a process, right? I'm not denying that emotional eating is a phenomenon. And so, I would support people in figuring out, what foods to eat to nourish themselves and how to handle the cravings and how to recognize their feelings and needs instead and how to communicate them. And so eventually I realized I need more training in this. It was already something that I was gifted in. So I studied nonviolent communication and a lot of other emotional healing modalities. And I went back to study relationship coaching specifically at the Relationship Coaching Institute, and then more postgraduate trainings in relationship healing that therapists do when they're graduated from their master's programs. But then I also did those trainings as a coach, and studied with Susan Johnson's teachings and John Gottman's teachings, and Stan Tatkin. And, I also just integrate a lot of different experts together. I don't have to list them all, but um, eventually I developed my own system to be able to coach people in discovering their unique truth that comes from their heart in a way that honors the other person, because that's my um assertion, is that there's always a way to say your truth in a way that honors the other person, so
Yeah.
that you don't have to betray yourself or another person, and you can create a win-win solution. You don't have to compromise yourself and feel resentful. If you think you do, then there's just a deeper inquiry process to get into about what do you actually need on a deep level, what do they actually need on a deep level, and how can you have that win-win. And so that's what I do with couples. I help them clear up misunderstandings, which people don't even realize they have. And then with singles, a lot of times it's that we have deep fears of intimacy and closeness and vulnerability from the past that we have to heal in order to be available for saying the thing in the present that might push the person away, but it would only push the wrong person away. But can you handle that? Because you have to be able to handle that in order to find the right person. And so it's, helping to tease away these vulnerabilities and have enough compassion and courage with the right support. But I find that our life moves so quickly that if we don't slow down and do this work, that we miss the opportunities.
So how do you balance all this out? Dealing with relationships with people, it's pretty heavy. You have to help them get to that better place. How do you insulate yourself and take care of your own soul and your life and then do the best job you can for them? How does all that work for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I mean, I think that every coach or healer or therapist or whatever has to have a very clear practice to balance and center ourselves so we can help others, right? Because this stuff is so nuanced. And so yeah, I mean, I've experimented a lot over the years. And I everyone has their Achilles heel. I mean, mine is that I have hypermobile joints. So it's like if I get too out of balance, I actually injure myself. I think everyone has a different, Achilles heel, pun intended. Um, but if so, for me, like I have to be putting attention on both keeping my body healthy. So like diet, exercise, sleep. Thankfully, I had a really good foundation with that in my childhood. Um, it was one of the reasons why I was heavily bullied and so confused, is because I wasn't allowed to eat any sugar or any processed food as a kid. And very strict rules about that. But it actually really works as an advantage for me right now, because if I do, or even if for me, I'm so sensitive. If I drink coffee, like I get like way too dramatic and overly emotional and angry. Like I can't do any caffeine. Like I'm just very sensitive.
Yeah.
But so physically, like healthy, whole foods, clean diet, exercise, sleep. And also I need a really strong meditation practice. I think everybody has a different spiritual practice. My spirituality is very non-denominational. I was raised Christian, but I'm not um religious. I'm more spiritual, but I'm very um mystical. Not everybody is, and I don't think everybody needs to be. But what that means is like when I'm meditating, I feel whether something is just my own truth, that's a trigger that I have to work through, versus if I'm getting an intuitive hit, that's a truth that I need to take action on. But how I know is that, especially with another person, and this is why I'm a relationship coach and why I'm a good relationship coach, is because I can feel whether my truth is something that I need to work through in order to share with someone, or that if I communicate it, it'll create more harmony or more distance. And so we can come up with examples because I think that this sounds too weird if I'm not coming up with an example. But it's like I'm able to honor my truth and the other person's truth and see the win-win. And I'm always able to do that for people that I'm coaching. So it's that's why this is my gift.
Yeah. So, what are you the proudest of? Everything that you've done, everything you've accomplished, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I do think that it's good to come up with an example for the last thing, but we can rope
No,
those
no,
two.
no, no, no. I'm no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to skip over that. I thought you were going to do it, and then I thought you backpedaled. I wasn't sure, but please do. I didn't mean to skip over that.
Yeah, yeah, but no, we can actually answer both those questions at once, right?
Yeah,
Because like what I'm proudest of might be a way that I've helped a couple recognize that their individual truths were going to break them up, and I could find the win-win.
yeah.
Because I've certainly had a lot of examples of that. Like one really stark example, and I'm actually kind of roping a couple of case studies together here. Just because it's like the real one. I don't like to break confidentiality, but
Sure.
so there was one client, but it's sort of a conglomeration where it was a long distance relationship. And um I was only coaching her, but the guy, he was a good guy, but his ex was kind of crazy. And so he was scared of committing again. He was scared of getting married again. He didn't really want to be manipulated, and it totally made sense. And my client was a good person, but she didn't know how to convince him of that. She was an honest person, and although she had wounds from her childhood that prevented her from being vulnerable. So I really, she was scared if she was vulnerable that, then she could be rejected and that would hurt more. So I had to help her to do the inner child work to really feel safe being vulnerable, to feel safe that even if he wasn't right for her and if he rejected her, that skill would then help her to vet the right person, because she'd been dating this guy for years and sort of waiting for him. And like, it's partially because she didn't feel safe to be vulnerable that she couldn't really vet other people. So it's like I had to get her to the place where she could trust that this was a growth opportunity for her. That her learning to be vulnerable would not, even if this didn't work out, it would help her be prepared to attract the right person for her. And then she was then able to express her desires in a way that touched him very deeply, because she touched this deep truth within herself, such that he realized that he was willing to take a risk with her.
Yeah.
Um, and he was even dating someone else, and it was complicated, and he had complicated decision making process to make with this other person as to whether or not he wanted to be monogamous with my client and like move her across the country. This was like a big decision.
Yeah.
um but it was like that vulnerability, we could get to that deep desire that like this is my purpose, whether it's with him or someone else, and that he could get to this like, oh my gosh, I'm giving up this huge opportunity of this real love, because she could say her vision in a way that like, I want to look into your eyes in the morning and see our love in our children's eyes, and this is our favorite thing to do together and our favorite place to go together and our favorite song to sing together. And like she could really have that courage. um and so, I mean, that's an example of how I can get people to their deepest truth. And so, what I'm most proud of is that I get to do that sort of thing for people on a regular basis, whether it's that example or whether it's like that somebody realize that they keep attracting unavailable, emotionally unavailable people, but they finally make that realization that it's like, oh, that I'm not able to be vulnerable, like on, let's say, date 3, to talk about something small where I'd be vulnerable, to see if he can handle it. And then I'm not able to see the truth that he can't handle it, to then disqualify him. I make up an excuse and I fantasize and and people realize they do that, and then they're able to see, oh, he's not available. I can be emotionally available to myself, and stay in the game long enough to have the courage to test somebody. I mean, not that you're being manipulative, but like to not get attached to somebody who isn't available.
Right.
The courage to hold out, or that I'm coaching a couple through healing from infidelity, which is really, really, really hard. I mean, so what I'm proud of with that is like, because 50-50, I've seen it happen, but it's like really about helping them find their truth. What are we committed to here?
Yeah.
And like that we're staying in the game and having the courage. So I guess what I'm the most proud of is um, that I'm connected to, courage comes from that French word coeur, which means heart, that I'm most proud of, that I um, allow people to really dig deep and find the truth in their heart, because that's what makes us the most satisfied, even if it's uncomfortable, whether you say it with the person or not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then if not, then grieving is also a very heart-centered process.
So, in the annals of love stories that exist in the world, from Romeo and Juliet all the way down the line, what is your favorite love story?
Oh, you mean like culturally
Yeah,
too?
culturally.
Wow, that's such a good question. Um, and it's funny, it's like I still have that belief, like from when I was a kid. It's actually still runs really deep in me, because I wasn't allowed to watch the shows that most kids were allowed to watch either. So I still have this like belief that, or this experience that, like cultural narratives, like that love stories and movies, like I don't know most of them. I know I'm weird. Um, but let me sort of think. Um, you kind of put me on the spot with that
Well, let's
one.
do this. Let's segue out. We'll just kind of think about that for a second. Let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, well, I mean, that's also a difficult question, but um, yeah, no, I mean, who I think I am, it's funny. It's like my identity of myself is that I'm a messenger.
Yeah.
Um, that like my message is unconditional love and wisdom and empowerment. And that's, I do that to different degrees every day with every person that I talk to. um I don't think I am anything other than that. um Obviously my identity shifts from when I'm, growing up as a child on Long Island to wherever I'll wind up when I'm older.
Yeah.
um I like to think that I am a good wife to my husband, and I don't believe what it means to be a good daughter to my mother, but I love her.
Yeah. I get it.
um, but yeah, no, relationships of other people. It's funny. It's like I like to think that the experts that I follow have the kind of relationships that I want to emulate. And I don't necessarily pay attention to like celebrity love stories. I mean, because like but I don't know what the day-to-day conflicts are of like Harville Hendrix and his wife Helen LaKelly Hunt. I just know that the theories that they developed around Imago, they definitely work with on a regular basis. And so, like I don't know what the relationship of Ariel Ford is with Brian, although she's written so many books about soulmates and how to turn your mate into your soulmate. And I love the things that she teaches. Um, so it's like what I do is I pay attention to what the other relationship experts' love stories are and how they live them. And I try to live true to their teachings, but are they perfect at it? Probably not. And they share their stories in their books too.
Yeah. So,
Um,
speaking of sharing the story and taking this further, if anyone wants to reach out, they want to hire you, they have questions, they want to delve into your writings, any of the good work in your world, where do they go?
well, yes. So my website is called coachvaleriegreene.com. So that's just my name, Valerie Greene. If you're watching this, you can see it on the screen, and then coach before my name, COACH. And I do have 4 free gifts. If you go to the tabs, you'll say there's a free gifts tab on the top of my website. And there's a ebook for singles, one for women who are in relationship, which is about communicating your feelings. And then I have one for couples. It's a video training, 3 steps to stop fighting and start connecting. And then I have one just about emotional healing.
I will put all of those in the show notes. Valerie, thank you so much. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Yeah, likewise. This has been really fun.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.